Morning. We're glad that you're here. We have a lot of visitors. Don't forget that next Sunday is our buzz event. We have Inky Johnson coming. There are cards out up front. Be sure to grab a handful of those cards when you leave today. Take them with you. You say, well, I've already told some people about it. This is the week that you remind all those people you told about it, that he'll be here next Sunday. We're excited about that. We're asking you as members, we don't have Bible class next Sunday, but what we're asking you to do is be here, as a member, be here by 9:30 next Sunday. We want to be here and beat the guests here so that we can be here to greet our guests when they come. And so be sure to be here next Sunday early. Be sure to invite your friends, tell them about it again, and encourage that. Also, we do have a confirmation. We do in May 16th and 17th. The Robertsons are coming back, Al and Lisa. We're going to do a Saturday morning from 9 to 12. We're having a marriage enrichment type thing. They're going to do, if you've got their book, you know the book, they're going to tell their story first, and then we're going to have 2 sessions, and then lunch that day. And then on Sunday, Al will preach. And so we're excited about that. Be sure to make your plans and put that on your calendar as well. And we're just excited about all the good things that God is doing in this church. We are glad that you are here. It's, we've got so many things to offer in this congregation. It's because we have such a good, strong brotherhood. And I love the way that in services, we have to have a song to start services so everybody will know it's time to quit talking and sit down, because we're just that busy about doing things. Last few weeks we've been talking about having a vision, having a dream for us in the church, and how we need to be living up to that dream, and how that God gives us. God wants us to be achievers and believers. And the first step in achieving is believing, is having a dream for your life, having a vision, having a dream. It's stretching the imagination. It's visualizing the invisible. We need to have a vision, but the problem is, anytime you have a dream, the devil wants to turn that into a nightmare. And every time you have a dream, the devil, when you have an idea, you want to do something great for the Lord, the devil wants to step in and say, it can't be done, it won't be done, you won't do this, it's not going to happen. And so we need to be prepared for that. In Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1, it tells us, now faith is sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. That's what I mean by stretching the imagination and visualizing the invisible. God has us do that. Faith starts with the way you see things. It starts with your imagination. You imagine, your imagination, it's a God-given ability. And Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. There's a tremendous power in your dreams and your imagination. I got thinking yesterday, talking about imagining things for this church and things. I'm already thinking into next year. Do you realize that 2021 will be the 20th anniversary of 9/11? And I was telling Gail on the way, but we had to go to Atlanta on Friday. We was coming back yesterday morning, and I told her, I said, I'm already thinking about what we need to be doing for the 20th anniversary for 9/11. We should have a blowout emergency responder appreciation. That should be our buzz event for the fall of 2021. And we need to already start thinking about that. And I'm wanting to get somebody to come in from that, maybe one of the firefighters from New York to come in and speak to us. I'm going to start researching that now, because I know that there already be events. And the reason I said that, because 2021, there'll be a lot of people doing that, and I want to get ahead of the crowd and go ahead and lock somebody in for us to come for that year. But, and get us coming and have a really big thing to show our responders in this community how much we appreciate them, and to remember some events that have I think have changed our country. But we need to have dreams, and that's a good thing. Everybody needs a dream for life. It's psychologically healthy. You need a dream. If you don't have a dream, you're not really living, you're just existing. Our dreams determine our lives. They define our lives. We develop a dream, and then the dream really develops us. If you don't have a passion for something, you have passion for nothing. And you wind up just being a grouchy old person. And that's not good. So my question is, how big is your dream? Now, I told you about how that we have down the hall, we have a room, that kind of a war room that we have where periodically we meet together with leaders and we talk about it. We sit in there and we really map out our dreams for the coming season. And we try to plan out some things, and it's time for us to do that again, by the way. But we need to do that, and we do that on a very regular basis here in this church. And I really think that's one of the things that is making us who we are, is because we have a leadership that says we don't want to just glide through life. We want to have a vision for life, and we want to see things happening. So we have that room there, and last year we did some remodeling in the office, and I bought some things. It wasn't cheap, and I got in a little trouble for that, but that's okay. But anyway, I put outside that door, when you go outside that door, the thing it says right outside the door is, and I strategically place this, Terry, where when you open that door and you go out that door, it says, think big. That's all it says right outside the door. It just says, think big, because really that's what we need to do. We, as the Lord's people, need to think big because we serve a big God. Young people have a tremendous capacity for imagination, don't they? They are tremendous dreamers. Why is it that when we become adults, we kind of lose our vision? Well, I think I know why that is. It's because the devil keeps digging, and the devil keeps getting in the back of our heads and telling us, oh, you can't do that. That's not going to happen. But it seems the older we get, we lose that capacity. What is it that causes us to give up on our goals and give up on the things that stretch our faith? Well, this morning we're going to look at some dream busters. Some things that Satan uses to tear down our dreams. You have to be aware of these things if you're going to live a life of faith, because, the Bible, I think there's a principle that says, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. If you know something's going to be there, to look for it, you're not hit from behind, and you're not sidetracked by it. You'll be able to do great things. And there's certain people and elements in your life that have a tendency to reduce your vision and to shrink your imagination and will divide your faith. And you'll see these examples in the Word of God. The first dream buster that I think about is, and really a lot of people don't realize, is your family. In Genesis chapter 27, we have the example of Joseph. Joseph is known as the dreamer, isn't he? I mean, that's what he's called, a dreamer. He told his brothers and his father he had a dream. He had several dreams. One day he was going to be a really important person. That was his dream. God had revealed to him one day he's going to be a really important person, and that his brothers and even his father would bow down to him. He said, it's been revealed to me that one day I am going to be a ruler. Right. Joseph was kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of his family. He got no respect. Sometimes when you've got a dream, the best thing you can do is just keep quiet about it if you're talking to the wrong people. Because there's some people that, if you bring up your dream, they're always going to be that negative Nelly that's out there that's going to tell you that it just can't be done. That they're not a part. And I don't think you should tell people that are not a part of the solution. They're just going to be critics. A lot of people think they have talents in their lives, and some people think that their talent is criticizing. Some people just think that God put them here on this earth to point out what everybody else needs to be doing, or what they're doing wrong and what they need to do right. I mean, we all know people like that. And they're just going to be critics. The Bible says of Joseph's brother, so they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Exactly. Some of you have experienced that kind of reaction from your family. You've got a great plan. Mom and Dad, this is what I'm going to do. And they say, sure. Or, there is no way. They deflate your dreams. You want their approval, but their reaction is thumbs down. And they don't give you what you're looking for. Parents, you need to be careful about that. And I know we want to protect our children. And I know that we want them to be realistic and everything. But I'm going to tell you what, don't be a dream killer. Don't be, your kids, again, I've told a story about the little girl that was at church there at Scottsville that had a dream of playing college basketball. And she was, again, 5'0", and, she probably weighed 100 pounds, real little girl, Everybody kept telling her, there's no way you're going to do this, including their family. Said, you cannot do this. You're too small. And she's a beautiful girl. Now, if she'd have said, I'm going to be a cheerleader, everybody said, oh, you're perfect. I mean, you're beautiful. You got the beautiful blonde hair and all this. But I loved going to Louisville because when she went to Louisville, she was a walk-in for the Louisville Cardinals. And she wound up playing in the national championship when they won the national championship. She played 3 of the quarters at the national championship. And it was funny because she was tiny, and those girls were huge. They were giants. She said I was like their pet. They all adopted me. I was the team mascot almost. But they said, the thing about her was she was so fast. She was small and she was fast, and she could run between these girls' legs. I mean, she was just that big, that small, and she would run around and do that. But I love going to Louisville because her poster, because she's such a pretty girl, her picture was on billboards all over that town. And I thought, what a declaration. Somebody said you can't. She showed them you can. But families that way, they deflate your dream, and even Jesus had that problem. Mark chapter 6. After Jesus had started his ministry, he goes back to Nazareth. Hometown boy makes good. He goes home, but the reaction was kind of less than favorable. You remember what happened when he went? The Bible tells us, but Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own relatives, and in his own house. In other words, a prophet can go anywhere and everybody's going to be, yeah. But he comes to his own house, well, nobody believes him. Why? Because, I saw this boy when he grew up. Whose unbelief has defined your faith and your dreams? It says in this passage that Jesus could do no mighty works there because of their unbelief. There in Nazareth, Jesus couldn't do what he could do anywhere else because of their unbelief. Who in your life deflates your dreams? Father, mother, wife, husband? Who is it that says you can never do that? Sometimes families can be dream busters. Let me tell you another group. Your friends can be dream busters. In Matthew chapter 5, we have the story of Jairus, who was a man who had a sick daughter. And he came to Jesus, asked for Jesus to heal her. While Jesus was walking to the house, it says in verse 35 that he came from Jairus' house, and these people came and they said, your daughter is dead. Why do you bother the teacher anymore? They said, Jairus, you've got a dream. You know that your desire is for your daughter to be healed, but she's dead. It's hopeless. Why bother? I like what he did. He said, Lord, if you will, it can happen. If you want it to happen, it can happen. In verse 36, Jesus says this. He says, Jesus said to him, do not be afraid, only believe. And I'm going to tell you, sometimes you just got to ignore your friends. Why put forth the effort? It's not going to happen. That's what they tell you. Is it a positive idea, that people in your life, they could either make you or break you? I'll just tell you. Let me tell you something, kids. I'm going to tell you something you need to write down. And I've said it, and I'll say it again 1,000 times if you're around me very long. Young people, you need to understand this. You show me the kind of people you hang around with, I'll show you the kind of person you are or the kind of person you'll soon become. You need to be careful about your friends. Your friends will either build you up or they will tear you down. And if they're tearing you down, you need to get away from that person. They will either be dream builders or dream busters. And you need to be finding people that will help you in your dreams. And if they are not that kind of person, you need to get rid of that kind of person in your life. Psychologists have known for years that we tend to perform about the same level as the people that are close to us do. So if you hang around with a bunch of underachievers, guess who you're going to be? Exactly. You need to be careful. The Bible is clear in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 33, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Again, you show me the kind of people you hang around with, I'll show you the kind of person you are or the kind of person you'll soon become. You might not be like them right now, but you hang around them long enough, you're going to start picking up on that. That's why parents tell you, they want to know about your friends. They want to know who you're hanging around with. At least they should. They want to know who these people are. They want to know about their background, all these things, because they know. They know. I mean, I'll tell you what, if you want to know about that, if you want to know and see, and again, it's not 100% all the time. But I'm going to tell you what, if you want to know whether what I'm saying is true, I hate to put you on the spot like this, but Casey, ask Casey, isn't that right? Isn't that right? You see it every day, don't you? I mean, he sees it every day. And I'm telling you, if you work out in the world, you work around, but you see it all the time. You can tell your kids, sometimes they won't listen. I'm telling you. You can't soar like the eagles if you're running around with a bunch of turkeys. I'm just telling you. You need to be careful. When I use the term friend, I'm talking about anybody you spend time with, whether they're a friend or not. Anybody you spend a lot of time with has an influence on you. You have to be careful. For some people, their best friend is television. They spend a lot of time with it. There's a tremendous influence in them because, let me tell you something, television can destroy your vision. The television lifestyle can lower your expectations, and it has a tendency to make you a negative person. Don't let anybody or anything smother your enthusiasm. Don't let your family do that. Don't let your friends lose that. But let me give you another thing that will do it. Fatigue will do that. Sometimes you're just too tired to be creative. I mean, you get tired and you lose your interest and your vision starts to shrink and you get burned out and you settle for second or third best because you're just plain old tired. And I'm going to tell you, some of you are running around like that right now. 1 Kings chapter 19 tells the story of Elijah. I love chapter 18 because Elijah is the person that we need to be, the person that he should have been, the person that was the kind of person that he should have been. He was a man of God who stood for God and stood with God and saw great things happen. It's amazing. I mean, he was there. You remember the story. He was there. He went up against 850 prophets of Baal. And they were calling down fire from heaven. And they put out a challenge. And you call on your God, and I'll call on my God. And the one that answers by fire, then that's the God you need to serve. And he put everything on the line because if he lost, if the other ones had answered by fire, they were going to kill him. But God sends fire. When he gets done, all these guys they're walking around, and they're hollering to their God. He gets them most of the day to do that. They're crying to their God. They cut themselves. He starts teasing them a little bit. I don't know how good that was because that only added fuel to the fire. Because if he had lost, they were going to kill him. But this is how much confidence he had. He starts making fun of us. What's wrong with you, God? Has he gone to the bathroom? Where is he? That kind of thing. What's going on here? Finally, they give up. He steps up, he has them douse his with water 3 times, so much he dig a trench around it. They had a trench around it, so much so that the trench filled with water and it was all wet and all that. Then he called to God and he says, I want you to do this so that people know that you are God. And fire came from heaven, burned up his sacrifice. They killed the 850 prophets. It was amazing. Then they go back to town where Jezebel is. This is a wicked woman. By the way, wicked women will bring you down too. This old wicked woman, she was there, and he runs back. I mean, he was so excited about the things that God had done for him, he runs back to town. And he gets there, and she's there, and she says, before the sun sets tonight, I'm going to kill him like he's killed my prophets. Well, then we get to chapter 19. Elijah is tired. I mean, he'd done all that. He ran to town, and it was like 14 miles to town. He ran a marathon to town. And then he didn't get the response that he was expecting to get. He's tired. He's discouraged. He crawls in a cave. He's giving up. I mean, here's a clear example of what I'm talking about. He just had this tremendous experience with God in this contest at Mount Carmel. And after it's all over, he hears Jezebel's going to kill him, so he runs across the desert. He is physically exhausted, emotionally drained. He is washed out. He runs, he hides in the caves, has a little pity party. Poor me. There's nobody standing for God but me. Of course, God tells him there's 10,000 hadn't bowed the knee, but we call it the Elijah syndrome. A lot of people get that. Oh, I'm the only one that cares. I'm the only one doing anything. We get that in the church sometimes. Oh, nobody wants to, all these different things. And we have a little pity party. I'm the only one left who's following God like they all do. I'm going to throw in the towel. Take my life. That's what he asked God to do. Take my life. I quit. He's so tired that he gives up on his dreams. But I love the Lord's antidote to Elijah. You know what he does? He makes him go to sleep. He takes a nap. Wouldn't it be great if some of us would just take time and take a nap? Just take a nap. Get a little rest. Then he wakes up and God feeds him. Sends him back to bed. He takes another nap. He wakes up and he feeds him again. God does this to him. And, listen, you should never make any major decision when you're tired or depressed. Wait until you get a little energy back. You get your perspective back. That's what God wanted for Elijah. Fatigue is a dream buster. Maybe you just need to get some rest. Of course, we know that God brings him out. He spoke to him. There was an earthquake, and there was fire, and there was a tornado, and all these. And God, it said God didn't speak through those. And then God's with a small voice said, "Elijah, come out." He had fed him. He rested him up, and then he talked to him. And he didn't just shout at him. I like that too. And Elijah was ready to quit because he was tired. Let me give you another one. Failure is a dream buster. In Joshua chapter 7, I have one of my favorites here. Joshua had led the children out of Israel. They were going into the promised land. God had told Joshua, that this land is yours, but you got to go out and take it. Everywhere they went, they were winning battles. They were winning battles right and left. They were having all these battles. God had given them the victory that was great. They were knocking the socks off the Canaanites. They had just brought down the walls of Jericho. You remember the story of Jericho? These walls, they said it was like 10 chariots could go across this wall. That's how wide the walls were. All they had to do was march around and blow a trumpet. And God caused those walls to fall down. Gave them a great victory. And, they got a little cocky. Someone committed sin. God had told them, this stuff is mine. When you conquer Jericho, you leave it like it is because it's mine. But somebody committed sin. A guy went over and he stole some gold and he stole some garments and that kind of stuff. And they go out against this little place called Ai. Yeah, that's how it's spelled too, Ai. And as small as the word, as small as this place there was. And they were getting a little cocky. They thought, well, we don't even need to send the whole army out there. We'll just send about 3,000 men to do this one. And they go out and they fall flat on their face. They were, it was not just a defeat. It was a horrible defeat. A bunch of them got killed. The rest of them are running. Joshua starts to cry out to the Lord. What in the world is going on? You bring us all the way out here. We're winning all these battles. We go up against this little bitty Ai, and all of a sudden we're defeated. Oh, and he cries, and he's feeling sorry for himself. Verse 10. God says, so the Lord said to Joshua, get up. Why do you lie thus on your face? He's crying and feeling sorry for himself. Was Joshua doing the wrong thing? No. He was doing what God told him to do. Go and conquer the land. Go out here and do what you do. Take over the land. The problem was there was sin in the camp that had to be dealt with, and it was. But often in your dreams, we're going to do the right thing, but maybe we're doing it in the wrong way. You don't give up on your dreams. You just readjust your approach. That's what Joshua had to do. They had to go in and re-examine themselves, make sure they got everything right. Maybe some of you have gotten all excited about a dream, a goal, a profession, a ministry, and you get started and you fall flat on your face. What do? Well, I'll never work again. No, you try a new approach. One of the principles that's taught all through the Bible is that we build our hopes not on our hearts. We build on our hopes, not on our hurts. Let me tell you something. We need to understand that you build your dreams on your future, not your past. I saw a sign yesterday. Gather and I we're coming through Chattanooga. We stopped at the teacher's resource thing and had a sign in there that says, "Don't look back, because you're not heading that way." Great thing. In other words, don't look at your failures, look at your future. And let me tell you something, your failures don't have to be final, and your failures don't have to be fatal. You will mess up. Well, you get up, and you readjust, and you make the things. Failures can be dream busters, though. And then finally, fear can be a dream buster. Fear can be a dream buster. Number 13 is the story of the children of Israel going into the promised land for the first time. You remember the story, 12 spies go in, they bring it out, 10 of them come back and they say, oh man, this is a great, all of them come back. All the spies come back, they give a report. The majority of the report was wrong, but they showed the people the fruit of the land. It was really a tremendous land of abundance, a land that they described that flowed with milk and honey. But in verse 28, they said the wrong words. Look at it. It says, but the people who live there are powerful. Whoops. They are powerful. And it says, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. In other words, giants there. They had what was called the grasshopper complex. Because they said, we're like grasshoppers to them people. That's how big they are, how powerful they are. They're just going to smush us. They were saying, this is a tremendous opportunity, but there's a problem. They made the fatal mistake that will kill more dreams than almost anything. You never confuse the dreaming phase with the problem-solving phase. The lesson is, you don't try to think up creative ways and evaluate them at the same time. It'll kill your creativity. A lot of people will come up with an idea and someone will smash it right there. But have you thought about this? No, you come up with the creative things first, then we'll figure out how to do this later. But a lot of times, that's what happens though. You come up with an idea. You never make a decision after you solve the problems. You make the decision, then you solve the problems. But a lot of times that's what we do. We don't make a decision until we can solve all the problems. You know what? Sometimes you're not going to solve all the problems. I remember, I'm old enough. I was actually 5 years old. On May 25th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy got up and he announced that they were going to put a man on the moon by the end of that decade. Most thought it was impossible. He made a decision, then they started solving the problems. You see what I'm saying? Because, listen, if they had made a decision based on the problems, they would have never even made this statement. He would have never gone out and made the statement that he had, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of this decade. That would not have happened because there was almost some insurmountable problems. But you know what? They made a declaration. He had a dream. We're going to do this. Then they said, well, you know what? We're going to figure out how it is we're going to get there. We don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. So many times, though, our fear will stop us right in our tracks. I don't know if we can do that or not, man. I'm afraid we won't have the resources. I'm afraid we won't have the people. I'm afraid we won't have this thing. In the church, oftentimes, it's exactly how we make decisions. Well, I'm afraid. I know whole churches who are driven by fear. Well, if we do this, what's it going to lead to? How many times have you heard that over your lifetime? That's fear. If you've been a member of the church all your life, that was probably the favorite phrase. What's that going to lead to? Why? Because we're afraid of what, if we do this, well, look, just take 2 steps down the road, it's going to lead to this. No, man, you make a commitment to doing something great and then you worry about solving the problem. Again, most thought that was it. 8 years later, after his declaration in 1961, in 1969, in July of 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. Amazing. Incredible. By the way, I was at the Apollo 11 launch. I saw that launch. My little sister, we was in Florida, went back to school and told her friends there at school, she was like first, second grade, she said, my brother's going to the moon. She thought I was on that thing because I went there to see it. But, I would have if they'd let me. I mean, you make the decision, though. You make the decision and then you solve the problem. If you wait for perfect conditions, how many things in your life will ever get done? I'm going to tell you, some of you do that with your life. Oh man, you get married and you think, boy, if we got to get everything just right before we have these kids. If you wait till everything gets just right to have kids, you ain't having kids. We're going to do this when everything gets right. We get everything. If you wait till your money gets right, some of you, when it comes to your giving here at the church, if we get this taken care of, we'll give better. If we'll do this, if we can get this thing and we fix this thing. No, you make the commitment to God. You do what God wants you to do, and then you worry about fixing it, because God will help you fix it. Never say no to an idea just because it's got a problem with it. Don't confuse the problem solving with the decision making or the dream, because you'll give in to fear if you do that. That's in your personal life. That is in the church life. Those are the potential dream busters. Let me close with two things that we need to remember. It doesn't cost you anything to dream. You can dream all you want to, and it doesn't cost you a penny. That's what's exciting about it. Don't be afraid of it, because there's no expense connected to dreaming. Everything that is now possible was at one time impossible. Have you ever thought about that? Everything. The fact is, somebody dared to imagine it. Somebody dared to dream. Dreaming is not only there, it's the foundation to faith. Let me ask you some tough questions this morning. Consider this message, what it means to your life. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Whether it's the first 5 years of your life or 75 years. Why not make the rest of your life the best of your life? By the way, I love Caleb in the Bible. He's 80 years old. And he says, I want that mountain. At 80 years old. I wonder if he knew Bill Boner. 80 years old. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Now, if you want to break out of your rut, you've got to start imagining it first. This morning, I dare you to dream great dreams. I dare you to think big, and it doesn't cost you anything. How big is your God? The answer to that question is, just take a look at your dreams. In your life, God is as big as your goals allow. The only limit to God's power is a limit that you put on Him. So, what is God's dream for your life? I like what Jeremiah 29 and verse 1 says. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Maybe you get a chance this morning when you leave, don't go out this door, go out through the office door. And when you go by, look at that. Think big. Think big for this church. We're having Inky next week. And I'm not gonna rat out Richard Webb or anything like this. But he says, oh, you're just an optimist. I said, I think we'll have 1,000 people. He said, well, we might have 500. I said, we had 600 for the Robertsons. We're going to have 1,000 people. I don't know about that. So I want to be able to go next week and tell Richard Webb, told you so. Think big. Plan big. I think Richard's doing things. I can talk about him when he's not in here. Y'all don't tell him what I told you, okay? But we need to think big. And we need to plan big. And we need to do big. And with God, with the big God that we serve, we can. And if we can help you this morning, God can do big things in your life if you'll let Him. And if we can help you, I want you to do that as we stand. We offer the invitation.